Okay, so for your practical, you will need to plan 4 advanced resistance methods, but the assessor will only see 2 of these. The assessor will choose which ones that you're actually going to use on the day. We'll start with a basic set, also known as a multiple set. So this one can be done for strength, endurance or hypertrophy, so do refer back to your power pyramid. So for example, we're going to do 12 reps today on a basic set for hypertrophy. The idea with this, it's more like your level 2 where you would do a set of 12 and then you would recover for 60 seconds and then you'd repeat. The more advanced methods, we have endurance based, it tends to be supersets and pyramids and things like that. So supersets are 2 exercises back to back with no rest in between. This can be agonist. For example, I could do a bicep curl with a barbell and then I could go and do some pull-ups. They both target the biceps. I could also do an agonist-antagonist. So this would be, I would do a barbell bicep curl and then I might move into an overhead tricep press with dumbbell. Opposing muscle group. So you would go, we're going to do supersets, 2 exercises back to back, no rest. What we're going to do today is bicep curls, straight away followed by overhead tricep. I'll give you a demonstration now. Okay, the benefits of this are it is time efficient and increased overload for that client because we're taking out that rest period. Triceps. Triceps are not on your list, but I do want to cover some of the ones that it's still important to be aware of them. They are actually in your manuals, so you do have a set list in your lap of the ones that you can choose from. Triceps are an extension of your supersets, so that could be 3 exercises back to back with no rest. So for example, you could do 3 chest exercises, a press up, a chest press and some flies. Again, increased overload and more time efficient. You can also add on to that and do a giant set. So a giant set, basically 4 or more exercises back to back, no rest. And that would be, for example, the legs. We could do leg extension, leg curl, adductors and abductors. Massively increased overload and definitely time efficient again. Pre-exhaust is in here. So pre-exhaust is isolation followed by compound. So if we just imagine that one, so if we did a pec fly, so isolation is where there's only one joint moving. So if there's only one joint moving, there's only really one main muscle group that's actually doing that work. So if we think about the pec fly, we do that to failure. We wipe out the pectorals, which is muscle A. So when we then go on to do the compound exercise for the same area, for example, a chest press, muscle A is fatigued. So it's actually about muscle B, the synergist, the helper muscles, which have to do the work. So pre-exhaust, isolation followed by compound, is actually about making the synergist pop out a little bit more. It's not necessarily directly all about the agonist. Next method, which is on your list, so really good method to use, really versatile method to use and very simple to apply in terms of your practical. We have different types of pyramids. I'm just going to focus on ascending and descending, which are the most common, or you could do a full pyramid. For your assessment, really, one or the other. So pyramids are where the weight increases, the reps decrease. So when we're talking about ascending or descending, it's actually the load that we're talking about. Descending, obviously the weight would come down and the reps would go up. Really simple ways to do that would be to have 3 weights on the floor in ascending order. Doesn't matter which exercise you do, because remember level 3 is all about the method and its application as opposed to the exercises themselves. So you could do, for example, a nice basic goblet squat. What would we expect to hear from you? We're doing pyramids today. We're doing ascending pyramids. What's going to happen is, as we work up through the weights, the reps are going to drop down. For example, you're going to do 8 kilos and 12 reps. You're then going to go to 10 kilos and 10 reps. You're then going to go to 12 kilos and 8 reps. The reason we do this is it uses a mixture of all different muscle fibre types. So pyramids are excellent for a warm-up, but also for a client that just wants a general conditioning. Now, every single method we talk about can be tweaked in terms of rep, sets and rest in the same way as you did at level 2. But ideally, we're talking about the method, and this method is more of an endurance-based method. Partial reps. So partial reps, the most common version of your partial rep is your barbell 21. So this it includes really not just going into the full concentric and eccentric movement. We're going to stay in one of the phases a little bit longer, so one of each phase. So for example, with a partial rep, imagine we've got a barbell here. We would do the lower half first, 7 reps. Then we would go from mid to upper, 7 reps. And then the final set would be 7 reps all the way through. Why do we do that? If you imagine, if you look at a basic multiple set, as it were, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm spending the same amount of time in the concentric as the eccentric. With your partial rep, we're spending a lot more time, definitely in the eccentric. Why is that important? Eccentric work, so we're talking more about your advanced, really advanced hypertrophy strength-based methods on this one. So that's basically it. You're spending more time in the eccentric, which is amazing, depending which journals and manuals that you read. I have seen reports of up to 40% more strength and hypertrophy gains when working in the lowering phase or the eccentric phase. So for a client, in terms of benefits, that's what it would be. So definitely more strength and hypertrophy for that client. You could do that with anything. Your barbell 21s are the most simple way to do it, but you could replicate that with most of your free weight exercises. Forced reps, as it says in the title, the forced reps are all about the PT helping the client force an extra couple of reps out. So if we imagine we're at a load, and now very important to remember this, if we imagine this load is definitely going to be at least 80% of a 1 rep max, because the client can only complete so many of these reps themselves. So that's when the PT has to step in. So for example, they could be working to failure, get to 6 reps. If the PT wasn't there, they'd put their coat on and go home, but the PT is there. So imagine my client is in front of me, struggling with that barbell. I'm going to stand, good strong split stance, always watch your posture, watch your back as a PT. And even if it's just my fingertips, we don't necessarily need to get right in there, depending on the load. Once the client starts to fatigue and starts to fail, the trainer is just going to help them lightly lift up through the concentric phase. They're going to complete the lowering phase themselves. Same timing, so don't confuse this with eccentrics or negatives, which I'm going to talk about next. The forced rep is the same timing, so straight up, trainer's going to assist, up for 1, and they're going to go down for 2 themselves. Can be combined with the negative, but just the forced rep method is really just the PT helping on the concentric when the client reaches that failure. Ideally done with your free weights. It can be done on some resistance equipment, but not particularly safe for the PT. So for example, we wouldn't expect you to be squatting down and picking up the pads on a leg extension to help with the concentric phase. So ideally things like bench press, lion tricep extension, definitely barbell bicep curl. Gains, as we've said, strength and hypertrophy. Negatives. Negatives are all about, also known as eccentrics, negatives are all about increased time under tension. Again, I've already mentioned why do we want to do that. We want to do that because we're going to get more gains basically by working in the lowering phase as opposed to the concentric phase. So with the negatives, you will see some variations on your negatives. So your client could do a version of a negative where they literally just pull up and then they just increase time under tension. But that's not an official negative in terms of the way that we want you to apply it. So your negative is going to be basically, if we imagine that power pyramid, your negative is literally, it's at the peak and above of your muscular strength and endurance continuum, aka the power pyramid. So the load that your client is going to lift on this one is above their 1 rep max. So we're looking at figures such as 105% of a 1 rep max. I have seen it reported as up to as far as 120, 130% of a 1 rep max. So with this one, for example, my client's now got my client's on the bench and the barbell is on the rack, they're ready to go, they can't lift that themselves. So the PT is going to assist straight away on the concentric, and we're also going to increase time under tension. So how would that look? That would be up for 1, down 1, 2, 3. Up for 1, down 1, 2, 3. Obviously you would stay ready. I'm just exaggerating that step back process. So we must communicate that to the client. So in terms of your assessment day, this is a negative. It's going to be a load of over 105%. You're not going to be able to lift this yourself. What's going to happen is I'm going to assist you straight away on the concentric phase. You're going to increase time under tension by lowering slowly back down towards, for example, your chest. The benefits of this are mass gains in strength and hypertrophy, definitely 2A into 2B muscle fibres. Let's just take a moment to compare this sheet with our more endurance-based methods, such as your pyramids and your supersets and your trisets and so on and so forth. So pyramids, you can change your rep ranges. For example, you could do a strength-based pyramid and go 6, 8, 4. But why would we do that and use that method that is quite a lengthy method when we can get significant strength and hypertrophy gains with a method such as a low volume method, such as a forced rep or a negative? So in short, for the client, using that method and changing that rate, increasing the time under tension, is going to give them the gains in a very short space of time. Cluster sets. Cluster sets are also known as a rest pause method. So you're going to see, if you start researching these, loads of different methods, well not methods, but different variations on the rep ranges. One of the examples might be, they'll do the first, so for the five reps, they may do the full 5 reps. We're looking at approximately 30 seconds between each one, and instead of going for another 5 reps, they're going to split these reps up into different clusters. So it could be that their next round they're only able to do 2 reps, they have 15 to 30 seconds rest in between, and then they're able to do the remaining 3 reps, or vice versa. So there's not necessarily a set protocol to follow in terms of how you put your clusters together, but the cluster method really, instead of me doing a set of 6 and then I'm resting for 2 to 3 minutes and I'm doing another set of 6, I might not be at that point just yet. So what I'm going to do is I might do my set of 6 and then I'm going to split my remaining 6 up into smaller clusters. So keep researching that. There are a lot of information out there, but in terms really for your practical, we're looking at you just defining what is a cluster set. So this is what we would follow, just breaking those reps up into small sets. With the rest pause, they are literally going to stop before they go into the next set. You may have seen another method which is referred to as a cheating method, which is actually a method. It's not just we're calling that person a cheat, which would be, for example, we get to failure on the chest press and then we just kind of hold it there for a few seconds and then we go back out. So with a cluster set for your assessment, if you do choose this method, make it very clear on how we're going to group those clusters together and the stop and start points of each cluster. Obviously I've put this sheet together in terms of these are your more aggressive hypertrophy and strength methods. So do remember for your assessment that you're going to have to choose 2 advanced resistance methods. Choose one from the first sheet, which are your more endurance-based methods, such as your pyramids and your supersets, and then choose another one from your hypertrophy strength sheet, which are these more advanced methods that we've talked about today. So just to recap, what are we expecting to see? What is the method? What's going to happen? What are the intensity levels? What are the timings? Any demonstrations of the exercises involved before the client starts the method, and then making sure that the client has executed that method correctly. So there's no point in talking about this is a negative, it's going to be 105% of a 1 rep max, which we would expect it really only to be no more than 3 reps, because that makes sense in terms of it is massively high intensity. So if we've got the right load, we shouldn't be able to crack out 15, 20 reps. So on the assessment day, if the client is happily going at 15, 20 reps and you've said it's a negative, then that's not a negative. So we expect you to continuously, like you did at level 2, assess the client. How are you doing? You should be feeling like you're at about a 9 to 10. We should only be able to go for 3 reps. Right, let's go. Tell me when you feel like you're going to fail, and then really on your guard, ready to look after that client.